The digital communication world is constantly changing new threats, new devices, and new ways we connect. So, how do we keep up with all these changes and still protect our networks? One effective solution is using 802.1x Wi-Fi secured with EAP-TLS. This combination provides strong certificate-based authentication, ensuring that only verified users and devices can access your network. It's a future-ready security approach that adapts to modern demands while keeping your organization protected. The actual name of 802.1x is IEEE 802.1x, where IEEE stands for the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers. They're the ones who define global tech standards. 802.1x is often associated with Wi-Fi, but it actually goes beyond that. It's a network access control protocol that works on both wired and wireless networks. It helps organizations strengthen network security by adding an extra layer of protection against unauthorized users or devices trying to connect. It does this through a method called Port-Based Network Access Control, also called NAC. Basically, before a device can fully connect to the network, it must first authenticate itself, typically using credentials or digital certificates. So in short, IEEE 802.1x is a powerful security measure that ensures only trusted users and devices get access to the network. EAP to TLS stands for Extensible Authentication Protocol to Transport-Layer Security. EAP is a framework that allows different types of authentication methods to be used across networks. TLS was standardized by the Internet Engineering Task Force, and it uses stronger encryption than SSL, also known as Secure Sockets Layer, making it the go-to protocol for securing sensitive communications. So when we put both of these together, EAP to TLS, it is a certificate-based authentication method that combines the flexibility of EAP with the encryption strength of TLS to secure access to network systems.
Now that you have a better understanding of exactly what 802.1x with EAP to TLS is and how it functions, let's get into the many areas of business where these technologies add value. The first area I'd like to talk about is network security and access control. When considering network security, EAP to TLS is a prevalent and secure authentication system. EAP to TLS is an alternative to password-based authentication that instead uses digital certificates assigned to individual users or devices. This alone significantly enhances the network security, visibility, and access control. Admins are now able to swiftly recognize and authenticate the devices that are connected. To go along with EAP to TLS, 802.1x is a protocol that provides authentication for devices trying to access the wired and wireless LAN. In doing so, this offers secure access at the port level. This is very important as it acts as a sort of gatekeeper by preventing unwanted access from harming the network because all traffic is held from the endpoint until the device is authenticated. When integrating the two together, network security and access control are much more secure. This adds value to the business as password threats are eliminated and access control is imposed for each device or port by using switches and wireless access points. Compliance is another very important area in business where 802.1x with EAP to TLS adds value, especially in risk management. Numerous businesses are subject to data protection regulations such as HIPAA, GDPR, and SOX. These regulations require that authorized users and devices can access sensitive data, and these technologies help businesses meet these specific requirements. When considering risk management and compliance, 802.1x is vital for edge enforcement, network segmentation, and layered verification. Similarly, EAP to TLS is important to protect against things like identity fraud, phishing, and unauthorized devices. When using the securities together, businesses can easily mitigate risk management and compliance by enforcing specific security policies. Policies could be only allowing company-managed devices to have access and making sure users can't share their access. Implementing 802.1x with EAP to TLS also helps organizations meet these regulatory requirements and avoid potential fines or legal action. For operational efficiency, the use of 802.1x with EAP to TLS adds value to industries by reducing cost. The use of both securities ensures certificates are saved to a device and presented automatically during the network handshake. This ensures that there is no user involvement required. In recent reports, customers have seen up to a 50% reduction in IT support tickets in the use of these securities. When taking this into consideration, operational efficiency is boosted for businesses as the majority of help desk calls are password resets. A great example where 802.1x with EAP to TLS reduced costs for a business is shown in the case study of a global fintech firm. The company initially wanted to install an on-premise Radius server, but they realized that having an on-premise server for their network security was going to be too expensive as it would cost thousands in hardware and labor. After doing some research, the firm decided to go with a cloud-based 802.1x with EAP to TLS server. In doing so, costs were significantly reduced as they could avoid purchasing and maintaining expensive hardware. By lowering help desk costs, maintenance costs, and reducing labor, businesses enhance their operational efficiency. Educational institutions are another area where this technology adds value, and secure Wi-Fi is an important factor. For Wi-Fi, security is measured by encryption, which provides confidentiality, authentication, which provides access control, and message integrity, which shows whether the data has been altered. Usually, implementing the most secure Wi-Fi option is a priority for educational institutions since there are so many users. 802.1x with EAP to TLS, which is often associated with WPA3, is known as the gold standard for secure wireless authentication in environments where security is a top priority. In educational institutions, students need secure Wi-Fi to effectively conceal sensitive information like grades and login credentials. Along with this, 802.1x with EAP to TLS ensures that there will be no unauthorized devices that can join the network. This can help to conserve bandwidth. With the enhancement of network performance, security, and reliability, 802.1x with EAP to TLS is the ideal option for educational institutions.
Now that we've covered business areas, let's move on to practical cases and applications of 802.1x authentication with EAP-TLS. This security protocol is widely used across industries, including education, healthcare, corporate enterprises, and government networks, to protect sensitive data and strengthen overall network integrity. Next, we'll take a look at how 802.1x is actually set up with EAP-TLS and how these systems are deployed to meet the unique needs of each environment. Hello everyone, today we'll be simulating an 802.1x EAP-TLS. So, this is Cisco's cloud environment. It gives you the ability to run different technologies in a simulated environment. This one just so happens to be the Cisco Enterprise Network Hardware Sandbox. For right now, as you can see here, we have a bunch of different devices that are listed. The ones we're going to focus on for today are going to be the ICE 3.2, which is set up for our testing simulation. We're also going to be using this jump box or jump host to get to the ICE. So we do have some other things that are running in the environment, like some switches, but we're going to be focusing on the Cisco C9300-1, and it is connected to this client 1. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go over to our jump host and log into it. Okay, so now that we're logged in, one thing we want to do is show that we're currently connected again. Just as a reminder, this is a lab environment, so there's not going to be too many things going on here. We only have a couple of devices connected. But the thing is, we want to show what ICE is. ICE, or ISC, stands for Identity Service Engines. It is a policy-based solution where you define the policy with the environment, and then it provides that policy back down to the endpoints to enforce. So what we configure here for a policy then gets enforced down at a switch or a wireless LAN controller, a router, or whatever the case may be. Whatever is using Radius for authentication. For our AAA services, the first thing we will show is a little more of the setup and what's going on in the environment. So ICE works off of what's called policy sets, and here you define the name of your policy set. In this case, our environment is just going to be used for wired authentication, and we're going to use the Cisco switch. So it's going to get set up for wired authentication for our use case. Is saying, hey, for the condition to match right, we want to say that for the device type to equal Cisco switch, which we have a Cisco configured, and we're looking for either a wired 802.1x or wired MAP. We won't get into MAP, but the wired 802.1x is what we're looking for. Just to add in real quick, Radius has three main functions: authentication, authorization, accounting, which are also your AAAs. So then in here, we have the first part of AAA, so authentication. We've got some policies defined in here, and for our use case right now, we're just saying, hey, here's the name, authentication for 802.1x, and the condition we're looking to make sure that the connection is actually a .1x connection coming in from a wired interface. And then we have some use cases that will associate with it. In this case, we're really looking for certificate information. And then here we have some of the second part of the AAA, which are the authorization components. And here we're just looking for some conditions that match our computer. And we're going to be testing with the domain computer that we're looking for, right? So we've already checked that it's 802.1x. The certificate is good. And it's 802.1x method. Here we're just checking to make sure that the computer is actually part of the domain, and we're going to go ahead and permit it. I've got some other stuff in here, but that's not what we're looking for. So the other thing we're looking for here is that we do have a switch configured. The one on our right, we do have some interface configured on here. It is a 48-port switch, but the one that we're looking for is really just this one to show some of the interface configuration. So now we've found our host, and we're just going to run an interface really quickly. So you can see here we are doing a .1x authentication. We are also looking for a single host, but that really enables the .1x, and we do have some configuration on here that kind of shows it's working. And then from our computer perspective, if we go over to our client, you can see here, let me go ahead and log into this guy. And what we see here is we have a certificate issued, right? So this is a certificate database, and what we do have is a certificate issued, and this is our CA, or certificate authority. And this is the certificate that was issued to this client, right? So this is a Windows 10 Client 1 is what we're looking for. We do have a wired connection already set up, so this guy's set up, and this is our interface here. And he's already online, so when we go and look at some of our authentication, we can see here that these are live logs coming in from the switch, or from any Radius client. In this case, the network access device is the switch, so we do have some stuff coming in. You'll actually see over here that this is our C93001 and its switch. It's got the switch port that's associated with it. But anyways, what we're really looking for from our live logs is for one of the 802.1x authentications. So we'll open that up. And what you can see here is we hit our wired 802.1x for authentication, and then for our authorization, we hit our domain controller. The other thing that we see as we scroll down is our authentication method was 802.1x, and our 1x ensures you can say 802.1x, so you can see .1x right there. There's an anonymous, and then of course our authentication protocol is EAP-TLS. The cool thing here that you want to notice as we scroll down is we get a bunch of information regarding the authentication for it. So our certificate name was Windows 10. One, you can see that this is the common name, right? You can also see the AD, Active Directory, is there. But the other thing we want to look for the subject RCN, right? The common name was Windows 10 Client 1, and it was issued by the CA, or Certificate Authority. And then with that, there's some other things in here, but the real results are the username. This is a computer workstation, and that he was granted access. So authentication succeeded. So let's recap. We've got a switch set up for wired access. You've got a client that has certificates. You have a client-based machine with authentication. It's using ISE certificates and 2 certificates right from the server, and you have the service certificate and the ICE. And the client certificate in on the client that used to encrypt the channel communication between them and establish an 802.1x authentication.
Getting locked out of the network when using 802.1x to EAP-TLS is actually more common and simpler than you might think. One of the most frequent causes is misconfiguring the wrong certificate to the network server. Even if the user's device has the correct certificate, the network won't grant access if the server isn't properly set up. This often happens when someone mistakenly registers the wrong certificate required for access. Another common reason is expired certificates. If users or devices don't have their certificates renewed on time, they lose access until those certificates are updated. A third scenario involves the use of old or revoked certificates. Sometimes the person managing the certificates can install a previously revoked certificate on a new device, which can again result in a network lockout. The key takeaway here is though that most of these issues are caused by human error. The processes might seem simple on the surface, but with so many moving parts and dependencies, mistakes are almost inevitable. While 802.1x to EAP-TLS is considered one of the most secure authentication methods, its strengths come at a high cost. Many companies find it too expensive or simply aren't willing to invest in it. Implementing EAP-TLS costs around $12,000 for just 25 wired endpoints, $22,500 for 100 to 200 wired and wireless, and $25,000 for up to 500 endpoints. Keep in mind, an endpoint includes not just computers, but also personal devices, medical equipment, and even industrial machinery. Due to these costs, some companies either delay full implementation or choose cheaper alternatives, such as PEEP or protected EAP. PEEP isn't as secure, but it's more affordable and easier to roll out. Vendors recognize this cost issue, which is why they often bundle PEEP with EAP to TLS in the same offering. Another major challenge with 802.1x to EAP-TLS is onboarding new devices. This becomes especially noticeable when companies are hiring new employees or deploying new equipment like laptops and mobile devices. Before these devices can even access the network, they have to be issued and configured with a valid digital certificate. This process is not only time-consuming but also technically complex, which can slow down employee access to critical systems and hurt productivity, especially in fast-paced environments where time matters. Typically, the setup requires coordination with IT teams. It gets even more complicated in bring your own device scenarios at work, where end users are responsible for setting up their own devices. Without proper instructions or automation rules, users can easily make mistakes, such as misconfiguring their own device. These errors don't just cause delays, they also open the door to security threats like man-in-the-middle attacks by malicious actors. So while EAP to TLS offers strong protection, the complexity of onboarding makes it less user-friendly and more prone to human error.
In the ever-changing landscape of digital communication, 802.1x with EAP to TLS has its place. By integrating certificate-based authentication with port access control, these protocols are essential in preventing cyber attacks from unauthorized users. High-risk environments such as educational institutions, hospitals, corporate enterprises, and government agencies are subject to cyber threats on a daily basis. Using these protocols is critical for these environments to enhance and maintain their network security, integrity, and performance. Even with challenges regarding cost, onboarding, and complexity, 802.1x with EAP to TLS has proven to be the gold standard for large industries, especially when compared to other security protocols. This raises a couple of important questions. How can smaller organizations adopt these protocols with a reduced budget and team? And if the smaller industries are unable to implement the protocols due to cost and other factors, will this create a larger digital divide? Answering these questions will prove crucial in protecting our future industries as cyber threats become more prevalent and digital